I know a lot of people are reeling from the re-election of Donald Trump, which in real time happened just last week. If you're in the future and everything worked out great. But it doesn't feel that way right now. It feels like things are falling apart. And actually, with some space and reflection, that's the part that gives me some hope. Because we need for things to fall apart. Specifically, we need the broken systems that have brought our society, our ecosystems to the brink of collapse, to fall apart. In the words of the wonderful Bayo Akomolafe, may we all lose our way together. May we all be found anew. What does it mean to lose our way and be found anew? I believe it means that we have an opportunity to step outside of the system and forge our own path. A path that brings life to us as individuals, to our communities, and to nature that surrounds and supports and gives us life. I'm guessing you're here because you hear that call too. I'm guessing that that call feels powerful and joyful and enticing, but something's getting in the way. For some reason, you are struggling to make changes, quit corporate, to move forward into a new career. And that something is probably fear. And I don't want you to be stuck in fear for even a moment longer. So today I'm going to share with you 3 of the most common fears that hold people back from purposeful regenerative work. And most importantly, I'm going to give you actionable tips to overcome those fears. Let's go. Just before we get to those tips, let me introduce myself. I'm Alyssa Murphy. I'm a regenerative career and business mentor, and I'm on the same journey that you are, decorporatizing my life and pursuing work that truly aligns with my values. If this content resonates, I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with anyone else that you feel might benefit. Now, let's get to those 3 fears that are getting in the way of you pursuing purposeful regenerative work, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Number 1, money. Probably not a surprise. I'm sure this is the big challenge for you as well. The problem is we have these incredible ideas. They might be half-formed, but we have this yearning to move towards passion-led, purposeful work, but we just can't see how that is going to be compatible with making a living, with supporting our family, with paying the mortgage. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it won't be difficult. I'm not going to pretend that you might not need to make lifestyle changes, and almost certainly the way that you generate income is going to change dramatically. But I do believe it can be done. My own experience as a purpose-led entrepreneur tells me that. The experience I have working with my clients shows me that it can be done. But it takes time. The most important thing I want you to know is that it's unreasonable to expect this emerging regenerative path to generate income for you from day one. You've got to give it time to evolve, to explore and try out ideas and test and see what's going to be viable for you. If you need more guidance on this, I strongly recommend checking out my video for 3 easy ways to make money while pursuing regenerative work. That's going to give you really concrete ways that you can do this separately from your regenerative pursuits. And the most important thing you can do from a fear perspective is to put a really solid financial transition plan in place. It doesn't have to be extremely detailed and complicated. It just needs to cover some real basics. And I recommend, this is how I work with my clients, approaching this like you might a startup business. Think about what is the investment that you're willing to make into this transition. Do you have that investment perhaps in savings that you can draw from? Are you going to need a source of income as you move into this work? What is that source of income going to be? And then how much are you willing to risk? How much are you willing to hold back perhaps on some of your spending so that you can make more investment in this career? And what are the milestones that you're going to need to meet along the way to make you feel comfortable from a financial perspective? Yes, I know I'm using kind of quite in the system language here, but it's actually a really helpful way to approach this because this is how your fear is thinking. And if you can answer those questions, you can also say to your fear, look, I have this covered. I have thought this through. I have a plan. I've set parameters for myself, guardrails, if you will, for this exploration. You can relax, and then your fear can take a back seat, come along for the ride, but certainly not be in the driving seat. So the most important thing you can do if you are struggling with the money issue is to put a financial transition plan into place. Side note, this is exactly the kind of thing that we can do in Regenerative Pathways, which is my 2-week coaching program. We can go through all of the kind of questions that I just outlined. I will guide you through this process, and I will help you come up with that really solid plan that covers all of the different parameters and questions that you've got going around in your head. So visit regenerativeworklife.com/discovery to find more about that one-to-one support. Okay, fear number 2. You are scared that you don't have skills and experience that will transfer into regenerative opportunities. This is a really interesting one to me because I often hear this from people who are really highly accomplished. They have, to me, clearly so much talent and ingenuity and experience to bring into a regenerative field, but they don't see it that way. And I think the reason is that the corporate world likes to put us into boxes. It likes to put us into kind of a narrow stream and say, this is the linear path that you are on, and please don't step outside of it. Regenerative work is all about stepping outside of that path. So how do you do that with confidence and in a way that means that you can articulate the value that you're bringing to others? The key here is to really focus on core transferable skills. And I know, again, transferable skills gets used as a kind of buzzword. I mean just approaching this in a really simple way with really plain language and kind of stripping it back to the core ingredients. So a really helpful way to think about this is just to answer the question, what are you really good at? And write it with that kind of simple language. Think about if a child had said, what is it that you're really good at in your work? Okay, and this child is like 8 years old, okay, so they can understand things, but you're going to need to explain it in quite simple terms. It's a really, really helpful exercise. Get out your notebook and pen, just see if you can write down a kind of bulleted list of the things that you are really good at in the simplest terms. No corporate jargon, no buzzwords, no industry terminology or speak. Really simple language. It's going to help you to see your skills and experience in a way that you might not have done before. And a little bonus tip for you here, a mindset shift that I want to offer you. Regenerative work is not a sector. It's not a kind of a clearly defined segment of the market. Remember, we're talking about stepping outside of the system here. So let go of this idea that you need to tick anybody's boxes and forge your own path. Fear number 3. And this is the fear that I really believe sits behind those other two. So money and skills and experience, they're very rational, logical, understandable fears to have. I'm talking about the fears that don't take place in your brain, that take place in your belly. And that belly fear is the fear that you aren't good enough to do this. It's lack of self-confidence. And I see this with almost every single person that I work with, no matter how accomplished, how skilled, how experienced, and how they might come across to others. Most of us, on some level, have this deep-rooted fear that, what if I can't do it? What if I put all of this effort in and it's a spectacular failure? What if it's just a waste of time? What if I'm not good enough? This is really the fear to work with, and this is the one that's going to take some time. But here is something that you can start with today. I want you to really focus on removing negative influences from your life. It might look like certain people who don't believe in what you're dreaming of. It might look like your LinkedIn feed where everybody seems to be on a very well-trodden path. It may well be the influence of your current employer who has a certain way that they need you to be and they don't want you to step outside of. So watch out for those influences and remove any that you can. You know, maybe you don't go on LinkedIn for a while, maybe you don't speak to that person, maybe you opt out of some of the corporate culture that's happening around you. But also notice where it shows up in your own head, because we internalize those negative influences. We internalize corporate values, whether or not we know we're doing it, and they show up in negative self-talk. So I also want you to be super aware and start to notice when you get trapped into a spiral of negative self-talk. For me, that often shows up with things like, Alyssa, you're going to lose all respect. Alyssa, you're undoing everything that you worked for. Alyssa, no one understands what it is that you're talking about. Who are even you to be representing these concepts or taking people on this journey? It's all internalized corporate colonial beliefs that we don't need. We can let those go. And the first step of doing that is just to become aware of them. Just start to notice, oh, look at that voice that's showing up in my head. I wonder where that thought came from. Oh, look, there's more of that negative self-talk coming up. Oh, look, there's more of that corporate speak happening in my head. As soon as you just do that little, oh, look, oh, that's interesting, you create distance from yourself and the thought. And that is the really important first step for starting to detangle from those negative influences. All right, we have covered a lot today. I know this was quite dense. I'm going to give you a quick summary so that you can roll up your sleeves and get to work. The 3 fears that are holding you back and what to do about them. Number 1, money. Make sure you have a solid financial transition plan in place so that your fear can take a back seat. Number 2, worrying that you don't have the right skills and experience. Focus on those core transferable elements, the raw ingredients that you're going to bring to any new opportunity or organization, and practice articulating them. Number 3, self-doubt. This is the big one. Start by removing negative influences from your life. Create some distance from it, especially when that voice is happening inside your head. Get some space from that thought and make room for new opportunities. I really hope that this episode has proved helpful to you today. If you have any questions or any other sticking points, put it in the comments. I will reply personally. I will offer you my guidance. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.